You've cried, maybe this week, maybe today, maybe right now. As you're listening to this, your eyes are stinging with tears you're trying to hold back. You've felt that hot pressure behind your eyes, that tightness in your throat, and then, if you let it happen, that release as moisture spills down your cheeks. You've done something that no other creature on earth does. Not dogs, not elephants, not whales, not chimpanzees. Our closest genetic relatives, who share 98.8% of our DNA. Only you, only humans, only members of our strange, remarkable species shed tears in response to emotions. You've probably never thought about how extraordinary this is. Crying feels so natural, so automatic, that it seems like every animal must do it. You've seen your dog look sad. You've watched nature documentaries where elephants appear to mourn their dead. Surely they cry too, but they don't. Not like you do. They vocalize distress. They show grief in their behavior. They experience emotions, deep, real emotions, but they don't produce tears in response to those feelings. That ability belongs only to humans. Tonight, we're going to understand why. We're going to explore what happens in your brain and body when you cry, what makes emotional tears chemically different from any other kind of tears, and why evolution gave only humans this remarkable, mysterious ability. We're going to approach your tears with the respect and wonder they deserve, not as weakness or excessive emotion, but as one of the most distinctly human things about you. You've been taught different things about crying throughout your life. Maybe you learned that crying was weakness. Maybe you learned it was manipulation. Maybe you learned to suppress it, control it, apologize for it. Or maybe you learned it was healthy expression, emotional release, a sign of sensitivity and depth. But beyond what you've been taught, beyond the cultural messages and personal judgments, there's a biological reality. Your tears exist. They serve purposes. They connect you to every other human who has ever lived, and they separate you from every other species that has ever existed. Your body has 3 different types of tears. You've experienced all of them, though you've probably never distinguished between them consciously. The first type are your basal tears, the constant, invisible moisture your eyes produce every time you blink. You blink about 15 times per minute, and each blink spreads a thin film of tears across your cornea, keeping your eyes lubricated, nourished, protected. These tears are always there, quietly doing their work, produced at a rate of about 1 to 2 microliters per minute. Your basal tears are about 98% water, with enzymes, lipids, electrolytes, and metabolites mixed in. They contain antibacterial proteins that protect your eyes from infection. They smooth out irregularities in your cornea so light can pass through clearly. Without them, your eyes would dry out and you'd go blind. But you never think about them. They're just there, maintaining your vision, invisible and essential. The second type of tears you produce are reflex tears. You've felt these when you've chopped onions, when smoke has gotten in your eyes, when you've been poked in the eye, or stepped outside on an extremely windy day. Reflex tears are your eye's defense system. They flush out irritants, wash away foreign particles, respond to bright light or chemical exposure. These tears come from your lacrimal glands, which sit just above each eye, under the bone of your eyebrow. When your eye detects an irritant, signals travel to these glands, and they produce a sudden flood of tears to wash the threat away. The tears flow across your eye's surface and drain through tiny openings at the inner corner of your eyelids, then down through tubes called tear ducts into your nose. That's why your nose runs when you cry. The tears are draining into your nasal cavity. But the third type of tears you produce, emotional tears, psychic tears, the tears that come from feelings rather than physical irritation, those are different. Those are uniquely yours as a human being. Your emotional tears come from the same lacrimal glands as your reflex tears. They flow across your eyes and drain through the same tear ducts. But they're triggered by something entirely different. Not by onions or smoke or wind, but by activation in your limbic system, the emotional center of your brain. When you experience an intense emotion, overwhelming sadness, profound joy, relief so deep it breaks something open inside you, beauty that feels almost too much to bear, specific regions in your brain activate. Your amygdala, the almond-shaped structure deep in your brain that processes emotions and detects threats. Your frontal cortex, particularly areas like the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and orbitofrontal cortex, which help you understand and respond to emotional triggers. Your temporal cortex, regions like the superior temporal gyrus and middle temporal gyrus, which are involved in processing social information and connecting you to others' emotional states. All of these brain regions activate, creating a cascade of neural signals. These signals travel from your limbic system down to your brainstem, and your brainstem activates specific cells that control your lacrimal glands. Your glands begin producing tears, not because anything is physically wrong with your eyes, but because something is emotionally significant in your experience. This connection between your emotional brain and your tear-producing glands exists only in humans. Other mammals have lacrimal glands. Other mammals have limbic systems that process emotions. But only in humans are these systems connected in a way that produces tears in response to feelings. You've experienced this involuntary nature of emotional tears. You can't always control when they come. Sometimes you've tried desperately to hold them back. In a professional setting, in a moment when you didn't want to appear vulnerable, when you felt the timing was wrong. And sometimes you've managed it, using every bit of willpower to keep your face composed. But other times, the tears have come anyway, spilling over despite your best efforts to contain them. That's because emotional crying operates through your autonomic nervous system, the system that controls involuntary functions like your heartbeat, your breathing, your digestion. When the emotional signal is strong enough, your parasympathetic nervous system, the branch that governs rest, digestion, recovery, takes over and activates your tear production. This is why crying can actually feel calming once you stop fighting it. Your parasympathetic nervous system activation doesn't just produce tears, it also slows your heart rate, deepens your breathing, releases tension in your muscles. Crying is your body's way of shifting from a state of emotional intensity to a state of recovery and rest. But here's what makes your emotional tears chemically remarkable. They're not the same as your reflex tears. Scientists have analyzed the composition of tears collected from people crying about sad movies and compared them to tears collected from people exposed to onion vapors. The difference is striking. Your emotional tears contain higher concentrations of specific stress-related hormones and proteins that aren't found in the same levels in reflex tears. They contain more prolactin, a hormone associated with nurturing, caregiving, maternal behavior. They contain more adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH, a hormone your body releases in response to stress. They contain leucine and enkephalin, which is an endorphin, a natural painkiller your brain produces. Your emotional tears also contain elevated levels of cortisol, your primary stress hormone, and manganese and potassium, trace elements that your body uses in various biochemical processes. Recent research using advanced metabolomics has shown that tears from sadness have a different metabolic profile than tears from joy, which have a different profile than reflex tears. Negative emotional tears are associated with inflammatory pathways and estrogen signaling. Positive emotional tears are linked to different metabolic processes entirely. What this means is that your emotional tears aren't just excess fluid overflowing from your eyes. They're a distinct biochemical product that your body creates specifically in response to emotional experience. Your body is literally producing different tears for different purposes. You've wondered, probably, why your body would do this. Why would evolution design humans to leak fluid from our eyes when we're sad or overwhelmed? What possible survival advantage could there be in temporarily blurring your vision and making your face visibly wet when you're already in distress? Scientists have proposed several theories, and the most compelling answer seems to be communication. Your tears evolved as a signal, a visible, unmistakable message to other humans that you're experiencing something significant and you need connection or support. Think about the nature of tears as a signal. They're only visible at close range. Someone standing across a room might not see that you're crying, but someone sitting next to you, someone close enough to offer comfort, will definitely notice. This matters because, in your evolutionary past, attracting attention from predators when you were vulnerable would have been dangerous. But signaling distress to nearby members of your social group, people who could help you, protect you, comfort you, that would have been valuable. Tears are also difficult to fake convincingly. You can force yourself to make crying sounds. You can scrunch up your face, but producing actual tears, the kind that well up and spill over and leave your face wet and your eyes red and swollen, that's much harder to fake. This makes tears a reliable signal. When someone sees you crying real tears, they know your distress is genuine, and tears trigger specific responses in other humans. Research has shown that when people see someone crying, they experience increased empathy. They perceive the crying person as more vulnerable, more trustworthy, more in need of help. They feel moved to offer comfort, to ask what's wrong, to provide support. Even strangers feel this pull. The sight of tears activates caregiving instincts in observers. This makes evolutionary sense. Your ancestors lived in small groups where cooperation and mutual support were essential for survival. If you were injured, grieving, overwhelmed by loss or fear, you needed help from others. Tears provided a way to communicate that need clearly and unmistakably. But there's another aspect to tears as communication that researchers have identified. Tears can also function as submission signals, visible proof of vulnerability that can de-escalate conflicts. When you cry during an argument or confrontation, something shifts. The other person often softens. Their anger diminishes. Your tears are a signal that you're not a threat, that you're too emotionally overwhelmed to fight, that continued aggression would be attacking someone who's already in distress. This isn't manipulation in the negative sense. It's a biological conflict resolution mechanism. Crying temporarily impairs your vision, making it harder for you to fight effectively. This physical vulnerability, combined with the visible distress signal of tears, tells potential aggressors that you're submitting, that the conflict should stop. You've experienced this effect. You've been in heated arguments where your tears changed the dynamic entirely, or you've been the one whose anger dissolved when the other person started crying. Tears have power in human interactions precisely because they're such an honest, involuntary signal of emotional state. The fact that humans walk upright may have also contributed to tears evolving as communication. Your face is 5 to 6 feet off the ground, visible and prominent in social interactions. You rely heavily on facial expressions and visual cues to communicate, much more than four-legged mammals do. Animals whose faces are close to the ground, like wolves or bears, rely more on scent signals and vocalizations. But you're a visual creature, and your face is your primary social signaling device. Adding tears to your facial expression repertoire gave you another tool for communication, a subtle, quiet signal that doesn't alert predators the way loud vocalizations might, but that clearly communicates emotional state to anyone looking at your face. You weren't born producing emotional tears, though. When you were a newborn, you cried. You cried loudly and frequently and insistently, but you didn't shed tears. For the first weeks of your life, you cried without any visible moisture on your face. This puzzled your parents, perhaps. They expected to see tears. The image of a crying baby in their mind probably included tears streaming down tiny cheeks. But you were dry-eyed, even while wailing. This happened because your lacrimal glands existed at birth, but they weren't fully developed yet. They produced just enough tears to keep your eyes moist, those basal tears we talked about earlier, but they couldn't produce the volume needed for tears to overflow and run down your face. Around 2 weeks after you were born, your lacrimal glands began maturing. Their tear production increased, but even then, the tears were subtle. It wasn't until you were somewhere between 1 and 3 months old that you finally produced visible tears when you cried. Tears that welled up and spilled over and made your distress visually obvious. This developmental timeline tells us something important about tears. The vocal crying came first. That was your primary survival signal as a helpless infant. Your cries were impossible to ignore. They activated every adult's nervous system, creating an almost physical compulsion to respond. You needed that. You needed your caregivers to hear you and help you immediately. The tears were added later, once you had more social interaction, once you were alert and making eye contact and beginning to recognize faces and respond to others' emotions. The tears enhanced your communication, made your distress even more visible, triggered even stronger caregiving responses. By 4 months of age, your tear volume and protein composition had largely reached adult levels. Your body had developed its full capacity for this uniquely human form of emotional expression. You've used that capacity ever since. You've cried from sadness countless times. You've cried from frustration when things felt overwhelming or impossible. You've cried from loneliness, from grief, from the ache of missing someone. You've cried from physical pain, though those tears blur the line between reflex tears and emotional tears. Pain creates both a physical irritation and an emotional response. But you've also cried from joy. You've cried at weddings, at births, at reunions. You've cried watching movies or reading books when something beautiful or meaningful touched you deeply. You've cried listening to music that struck some chord inside you that you couldn't even name. You've cried from relief so profound it felt like something breaking open inside your chest. These tears from positive emotions puzzled researchers for a long time. If crying evolved as a distress signal, why would you cry when you're happy? But the answer seems to be that crying responds to emotional intensity generally, not just to negative emotions. When any feeling becomes overwhelming, even happiness, even beauty, even love, it activates the same neural pathways that produce tears. Your brain doesn't distinguish between good, overwhelming, and bad overwhelming in terms of tear production. It just recognizes that you're experiencing something emotionally significant, something that has pushed you past your normal baseline, and it produces tears as a response. There's also a theory that crying from positive emotions serves a regulatory function. When happiness or joy or relief becomes so intense that it's almost painful, tears help modulate that intensity. They bring you back to equilibrium. They help you process and integrate overwhelming positive experiences the same way they help you process overwhelming negative ones. You've noticed, probably, that crying usually makes you feel better. Not always immediately. Sometimes in the middle of crying, you feel worse, more lost in the emotion. But after a good cry, once you've exhausted the tears and your breathing has settled and your face is washed clean, there's often a sense of relief, a feeling of being lighter, emptied out, somehow reset. This isn't just psychological, it's physiological. When you cry for several minutes, your body releases oxytocin and endorphins. Oxytocin is often called the bonding hormone or love hormone. It's released during hugging, during sex, during breastfeeding, during any activity that promotes connection and trust. Endorphins are your body's natural painkillers and mood boosters. They're the same chemicals released during exercise, the ones responsible for runner's high. So sustained crying, the kind where you really let yourself go, where you sob and breathe and release, triggers your body to flood itself with chemicals that ease pain and create a sense of calm and well-being. This is why crying can be cathartic. You're not just getting emotions out in some vague, metaphorical sense. You're literally changing your neurochemistry in ways that promote emotional recovery and regulation. Crying also activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which governs rest and recovery. After the initial stress response that may have triggered the crying, your parasympathetic system takes over, slowing your heart rate, deepening your breathing, releasing muscle tension. This shift from sympathetic activation, the fight or flight state, to parasympathetic activation, the rest and digest state, is why crying often leads to feeling calm or even sleepy. Afterward, your tears may also help remove stress hormones from your body. The fact that emotional tears contain higher levels of cortisol and other stress-related chemicals suggests that crying might be one way your body eliminates these substances. While tears alone can't remove large amounts of hormones, most are processed by your liver and kidneys. The act of crying as a whole process, with all its neurochemical and autonomic nervous system effects, does help reduce your overall stress load. You've probably noticed that crying feels different when you're alone versus when you're with someone supportive. When you cry with someone who responds with compassion, who offers comfort, who stays present with your pain or your joy, the relief is often more profound. This makes sense from a social bonding perspective. Your tears signal your need for connection, and when that signal is received and responded to, when someone offers the comfort your tears were asking for, both your nervous system and your emotional state benefit. The social bonding aspect of crying, both giving and receiving comfort around tears, releases more oxytocin, strengthens attachment, builds trust. You've experienced how crying with someone can deepen a relationship, how being vulnerable in that way, and having your vulnerability met with care rather than judgment, creates intimacy that's hard to achieve through words alone. But crying alone can also be valuable. When you cry in private, you're still accessing the physiological benefits, the stress hormone regulation, the endorphin release, the parasympathetic activation. You're still processing and releasing emotional tension. You're just doing it without the social signaling and bonding components. Not everyone cries with the same frequency, and this variation is influenced by multiple factors. Women cry more often than men on average. Research shows this consistently across many cultures. Part of this is hormonal. Women have higher baseline levels of prolactin, the hormone found in elevated concentrations in emotional tears. Higher prolactin seems to lower the threshold for tear production, making crying more easily triggered. But social and cultural factors play a huge role too. You were socialized from childhood about when and whether crying is acceptable. If you're male, you probably received explicit or implicit messages that crying was weakness, that big boys don't cry, that tears were shameful or embarrassing. Even if those messages were subtle, even if no one directly told you not to cry, you absorbed cultural expectations that men should control emotional expression. If you're female, you may have faced different messages. Perhaps that crying was manipulation, or too emotional, or unprofessional. Or perhaps crying was more accepted for you, but came with other judgments, being too sensitive, too dramatic, unable to handle stress. These cultural messages shape how you experience and express crying throughout your life. They can't stop the neurobiological mechanisms that produce tears, but they can influence how hard you work to suppress tears, how much shame or acceptance you feel around crying, whether you allow yourself to cry or view it as something to avoid. Different cultures have vastly different attitudes toward crying. In many Western cultures, crying is viewed as an honest, involuntary expression of emotion, something you can't fake, something that reveals your true feelings. In other cultural contexts, crying might be more ritualized, might serve social functions beyond individual emotional expression. Some cultures have traditions of weeping as greeting, where people produce real tears as a social formality, starting and stopping them effortlessly. The point is that while the biological capacity to produce emotional tears is universal to humans, the expression and interpretation of crying varies enormously across cultures and individuals. You learned specific rules about crying based on your culture, your family, your gender, your generation. But underneath those learned rules, the biological mechanism remains the same. You've developed your own relationship with crying over the course of your life. Maybe you cry easily and often, feeling emotions intensely and expressing them through tears regularly. Maybe you rarely cry, either because your emotional intensity doesn't reach the threshold that triggers tears, or because you've learned to suppress the response so effectively that tears rarely break through. Maybe you cry only in very specific circumstances, only when alone, only when completely overwhelmed, only in response to certain types of emotions or situations. None of these patterns is wrong or abnormal. They're just different expressions of the same human capacity. Your crying frequency doesn't determine your emotional depth, your sensitivity, your capacity for empathy or connection. It's simply one way your particular nervous system, shaped by your particular biology and life experiences, expresses and regulates emotional intensity. Sometimes crying becomes problematic in ways that might indicate a need for support. If you find yourself crying constantly, unable to stop crying even when you want to, crying without clear emotional triggers, that might signal depression or overwhelming stress that could benefit from professional help. If you never cry but feel emotionally numb or disconnected, that too might be worth exploring with support. If you experience uncontrollable crying or laughing that doesn't match your emotional state, that could be a neurological condition called pseudobulbar affect that has treatments available. But for most people, most of the time, crying is simply a normal, healthy part of emotional life. Your tears don't need to be fixed or stopped or controlled. They're working as designed, helping you process intense emotions, signal your needs to others, regulate your stress response, and restore emotional equilibrium. Tonight, as you're lying here, you might be carrying tears unshed. Maybe something happened today that made you want to cry, but you held it back. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed by stress, or loss, or loneliness, or even joy or gratitude that feels too big to contain. Maybe there's pressure behind your eyes right now, that familiar tension that precedes tears. If tears come while you're listening to this, that's perfectly fine. You're safe here. Your tears are welcome here. They're not weakness or failure. They're evidence of your profound humanity. They're your body's sophisticated system for processing what you're experiencing and moving toward healing and regulation. Your tears connect you to every human being who has ever lived. Across all of human history, in every culture and time period, people have cried. They've cried from grief and joy, from pain and relief, from beauty and loss. Your tears link you to that vast human experience. They're part of what makes you human, and they separate you from every other species that shares this planet. No elephant, despite how they mourn. No dolphin, despite their complex social bonds. No chimpanzee, despite sharing so much of your DNA. Only you, only humans produce tears in response to emotions. This isn't something to take for granted. It's extraordinary. Your body evolved a specific mechanism involving multiple brain regions and neurochemical systems, and precise neural connections that allows you to leak fluid from your eyes when you feel things intensely. That's remarkable. That's strange. That's beautiful. Charles Darwin called emotional tears purposeless, like sneezing from bright light, a meaningless side effect. But he was wrong. Your tears have purpose. They communicate. They bond. They heal. They regulate. They connect you to others and to yourself. They help you process the impossible complexity of human emotional experience. You carry this capacity with you everywhere. Your lacrimal glands are always there, ready to respond when your emotional brain signals them. Your tear ducts are always ready to carry that moisture across your eyes and down your face. Your parasympathetic nervous system is always ready to shift you into recovery mode when the tears have done their work. You don't need to be afraid of your tears or ashamed of them. You don't need to apologize for crying or explain it away or minimize what triggered it. Your tears are valid, they're meaningful, they're serving important functions, even when those functions aren't obvious in the moment. Whether you cry easily or rarely, whether tears come often or almost never, you carry this uniquely human gift, this capacity to respond to the depth and complexity of your emotional life with a visible, physical expression of that inner experience. This ability to signal your needs and vulnerabilities to others in a way that promotes care and connection. This mechanism for processing overwhelming feelings and returning to equilibrium. Your tears are part of you. They're as much a part of your humanity as your language, your imagination, your capacity for abstract thought and artistic creation. They're woven into the fundamental nature of what it means to be human. So when tears come, and they will come at some point, for some reason, because you're human and humans cry, you can meet them with a little more understanding, a little more compassion, a little more appreciation for this strange and beautiful thing your body knows how to do. You can let them fall. You can let them do their work. You can trust the wisdom of your nervous system, which knows when tears are needed and produces them accordingly. You can trust that your brain and body are working together to help you process what you're experiencing and move toward healing and balance. And you can rest tonight knowing that your capacity to cry, whether you use it often or rarely, is evidence of your profound connection to every other human being. Your tears are part of the shared human experience that spans all of history and all cultures. They're part of what binds us together as a species. So rest now, let your eyes close, let your breathing settle, and know that whatever emotions you're carrying, whatever tears you're holding or have shed or will shed tomorrow, they're all part of being beautifully, completely, unmistakably human. Sweet dreams.